Some people treat boats like floating science experiments, except the hypothesis is always, what if I ignore every rule of physics at once? And somehow, the disasters you're imagining aren't even the weird part. Trust me, it gets much dumber from here. 1. A boating disaster truly begins when someone decides the laws of hydrodynamics are optional, which is exactly what happened when one man announced he could parallel park a speedboat at the marina like it was a compact sedan and not a 1,200-pound fiberglass missile. Witnesses reported the man staring at the slip with the same confidence someone brings to a job interview they didn't prepare for, then punching the throttle as if loud engine noise could compensate for complete lack of skill. The boat didn't slide in gracefully. It ricocheted off 2 dock posts, clipped a pontoon, and finally wedged itself sideways like it was trying to dock in a dimension that did not exist. The man stepped out, pretending this was normal, while the insurance agent assigned to the damage later described the claim as emotionally distressing. The marina staff didn't bother yelling. Silence was enough to express the universal truth that the boat should have been driving him instead. 2. Mechanical failure explains many boating incidents, but not the one where a woman insisted her decorative sail would work just fine as an actual sail, despite being made entirely of sequins, tulle, and the kind of glitter that usually ends up stuck to elementary school carpets. She insisted it was aesthetic aerodynamics, a term that means nothing in any scientific field, and set off into the bay where the fabric immediately acted less like a sail and more like a parachute designed by someone who had only seen wind in cartoons. Within minutes, the craft spun in circles like it was auditioning for a low-budget remake of The Exorcist, while passing kayakers tried to determine if she needed help or applause. She later filed a claim blaming the uncooperative breeze, leaving the insurer to write the most diplomatic version of "Your boat is not an arts and crafts project" ever documented. 3. The ocean has seen questionable decisions, but few match the guy who tried to inflate a massive pool float shaped like a 3-story rubber duck using his boat's fuel line because he didn't want to waste breath. The float was meant for a photo shoot, not open water, yet he treated it like a vessel endorsed by the Coast Guard. The moment he connected the fuel line, the duck expanded with the enthusiasm of a parade balloon, then abruptly melted into a sagging, chemically scorched pancake that slapped across the deck like a collapsing marshmallow. His reaction, pure confusion, suggested he genuinely believed gasoline belonged anywhere near vinyl. The insurance claim cited unexpected material failure, leaving the agent to wonder how to politely write, "The unexpected failure was your decision-making." 4. A group outing took a spectacular turn when one person, operating a rented pontoon, announced that he could totally drift this thing, as if pontoons are known for their cornering finesse and not their resemblance to oversized floating dining rooms. He approached the turn with the commitment of a stunt driver and the skill of someone who once watched a racing montage on television. Instead of drifting, the boat heaved left like it was trying to escape its own captain, launched everyone's snacks into the air, and rammed gently but firmly into a buoy that had been perfectly stationary for 40 years. He blamed the buoy for moving weirdly, and the rental company calmly informed him that buoys do not, in fact, possess free will. His security deposit vanished so quickly, it could have been an illusion. 5. Dock cameras captured a glorious moment of chaos when a man attempted to impress onlookers by stepping off his boat onto the dock while holding 2 bags of groceries, a fishing pole, and the kind of swagger that historically precedes injuries. Unfortunately, he forgot the boat was still in reverse. The instant his foot touched the dock, the boat glided backward like it was making a graceful exit from the conversation. The man stretched into a full-body, slow-motion human wishbone, arms in the boat, leg on the dock, and dignity evaporating into the breeze. Eventually, gravity chose sides, yanking him into the water while the boat continued drifting away, as if embarrassed to be associated with him. The eventual insurance claim described water intrusion to personal electronics, which was a polite way of saying every device he owned drowned in shame. 6. An ambitious fisherman caused a memorable disaster when he bolted a homemade fish vacuum to the bow of his boat, claiming it would streamline the catching process, despite resembling a leaf blower taped to PVC pipes. The device promised big results and delivered exactly that, just not the desired kind. When activated, it didn't suck fish into the boat. It sprayed seawater directly into the fisherman's face with the enthusiasm of a fire hose punishing poor choices. The blast knocked him backward, flooded the deck, and shorted his battery in a display of aquatic slapstick. When asked why he thought this would work, he explained that innovation requires risk, a phrase insurance agents hear seconds before writing very large numbers on a claim form. 7. A man in a rented fishing boat created the world's least successful smokescreen when he tried to barbecue on board using a full-sized backyard grill he'd strapped to the deck using bungee cords and optimism. The charcoal ignited instantly, because of course it did, sending up a plume of smoke visible from 3 towns. Panicked witnesses thought the boat was sinking or on fire, which it was, but only the grill portion. The added weight tipped the boat enough that water sloshed onto the coals, sending up hissing steam and molten ash like a rejected volcano demonstration. The rental company filed the experience under customer-induced combustion, a category they apparently use more often than any sane person would assume. 8. One captain tried to multitask by steering his boat with his foot while holding a phone in one hand and a sandwich in the other, creating the nautical equivalent of juggling chainsaws while blindfolded. Predictably, the boat veered into a gentle but firm collision with a moored yacht, leaving a perfect sandwich-shaped smear on the console as the only documentation of his priorities. He attempted to argue that the wake pushed him, but the security footage clearly showed him treating boating like a casual driving simulator. The insurance adjuster handling the case allegedly paused the video, sighed deeply, and said, "I don't get paid enough for this," officially marking the moment the boat crash became more of a workplace comedy than an accident. 9. A tourist attempted to anchor her rental boat using what she called a portable weight alternative, which turned out to be a pink dumbbell from her workout bag. She tossed it overboard triumphantly, unaware it was roughly as effective as anchoring with a scented candle. The dumbbells sank immediately, the boat drifted freely, and within minutes she floated into a restricted swim area where lifeguards watched the situation unfold like a slow-motion educational video on poor decision-making. When confronted, she insisted the lake was calm enough, revealing a touching but misplaced faith in water behaving politely. Her insurance claim politely noted improper anchoring technique, which is the closest bureaucratic wording possible to "you anchored with gym equipment." 10. A man testing his unsinkable cooler learned a harsh lesson in buoyancy when he tied it to his boat and dragged it behind him to see what would happen. What happened was entirely predictable to anyone who passed 4th grade science. The cooler flipped, filled with water, and began behaving like a submerged anchor performing its best impression of sabotage. The boat slowed abruptly, spun halfway around, and nearly ejected the driver, who later claimed he was conducting research. His research apparently did not involve understanding drag, hydrodynamics, or the structural integrity of coolers. The manufacturer later confirmed the product was marketed as durable, not capable of voiding your boat insurance. 11. A couple attempted a romantic sunset cruise that swiftly descended into maritime slapstick when the man decided to propose by hiding the ring inside a champagne cork. His plan relied heavily on the notion that corks behave consistently, which is adorable but untrue. When he popped the bottle, the cork launched skyward with enough force to qualify as a low-orbit object, tumbling somewhere into the bay and taking the ring with it. The couple spent the next hour performing frantic nautical archaeology with a pool net, a flashlight, and waves that had no interest in their engagement timeline. Their insurance agent later received an inquiry about lost personal property, a phrase that hid the full story of a proposal sabotaged by carbonation and poor judgment. 12. An enthusiastic first-time captain ruined an otherwise peaceful harbor afternoon by attempting to create epic cinematic waves for a friend's drone footage. He revved the engine and looped repeatedly around the marina, creating a wake so obnoxious it prompted every docked boat to bob dramatically like they were collectively seasick. Chairs fell, drinks spilled, and one elderly man's sandwich performed a perfect backflip before landing in the water, where a seagull immediately claimed it. When the harbor master caught up to the captain, he cited a long list of rules the man had apparently treated as optional reading material. The insurance paperwork later described wake-related structural disturbance, which sounds far more dignified than your unpaid film hobby threw half the marina into chaos. 13. A man ruined his weekend fishing trip when he accidentally launched his boat without removing the trailer straps, creating the exact scenario boating instructors warn about with the patience of disappointed parents. The boat floated only halfway off the trailer, then tilted upward at a dramatic angle like it was trying to perform a bow stand stunt. Meanwhile, the truck continued backing down the ramp, unaware it was dragging the world's most confused seesaw into the water. By the time he noticed, the boat was perched like modern art, half submerged, half trailer, and entirely tragic. Insurance documents later labeled it improper pre-launch procedure, which is the polite shorthand for "you forgot step 1." 14. A group celebrating a birthday on a rental boat learned a crucial truth about water balloons. They don't improve navigation. Someone decided it would be hilarious to pelt nearby boats with balloons, unaware that retaliation is a universal language. Other boaters immediately joined the chaos, turning the lake into a low-stakes naval battle with an extremely high embarrassment factor. In the middle of the watery mayhem, the birthday captain became so distracted by his friends shrieking that he forgot he was steering, plowing directly into a line of paddleboarders who now have trust issues with birthdays in general. The insurance claim delicately noted collision caused by recreational activity, avoiding the more accurate phrase balloon-induced nautical stupidity. 15. A fisherman created a moment of pure nautical misery when he tried to retrieve his favorite lure by leaning so far over the rail that he triggered the boat's man-overboard alarm, an alarm he had previously called unnecessary. As he dangled precariously, one hand clutching the rod and the other windmilling wildly, he slipped and fell directly onto the outboard motor, which was both running and deeply offended. The resulting shutoff, splash, and chorus of panicked yelling produced a scene so chaotic it resembled live-action slapstick. When explaining the damages, he insisted the motor attacked him, prompting an insurance agent to write the most diplomatic version of, "Sir, that's not how physics works," ever processed on company time. 16. Chaos erupted the moment a self-declared nautical visionary attempted to demonstrate his new technique for hands-free docking, a term that already sounds like something written in a police report. His method involved tying a rope from the bow to a piling, giving the boat a shove, and trusting momentum and positive energy to guide the vessel neatly into place. What actually happened looked less like docking and more like a slow, confused escape attempt. The boat swung wide, dragged the piling sideways, spun backward, and finally kissed the dock with the gentle impact of a wrecking ball wearing chapstick. He defended the disaster by claiming this was how European captains do it, prompting a marina employee to respond with the kind of silence normally reserved for spiritual reflection. The insurance adjuster later received photos showing the boat resting diagonally across two slips, looking exactly like it wanted to start a new life somewhere far away from its owner's leadership. 17. A serene afternoon turned into an accidental physics experiment when one boater, desperate to retrieve a hat blown overboard, decided to perform what he confidently labeled a precision reverse maneuver. The problem is that reversing a boat with precision requires understanding which direction water moves when the propeller spins, a detail he approached with the optimism of someone who thought the ocean would politely cooperate. When he slammed into reverse, the stern dipped aggressively, sucking half the lake into the engine while the hat bobbed mockingly just out of reach. The engine coughed, sputtered, and died like it was staging a protest, leaving the boat drifting sideways into a row of pristine vessels owned by people who treat polish like a religion. The hat, meanwhile, floated peacefully away, untouched and entirely unbothered. His later statement, insisting he almost had it, was met with the sort of diplomatic nod marina staff reserve for clients who will absolutely be paying for everything. 18. The true test of human judgment occurred when a proud owner unveiled his latest modification, a leaf blower mounted to the stern, designed to boost speed by creating supplemental thrust, which is a phrase only ever used by people seconds away from losing security deposits. He hit the switch with flourish, expecting the boat to leap forward like a jet-powered masterpiece, but instead, the contraption blasted an aggressive stream of air straight down, kicking up a tornado of water that soaked every passenger and reduced visibility to fog machine levels. The boat didn't accelerate. It trembled in place like it was embarrassed to be involved. The leaf blower overheated instantly, emitting a sad wheeze before shutting down in protest. Later, while filling out a claim for mechanical damage, he described his invention as a promising prototype, while the insurance clerk prayed for a job transfer to literally anywhere else. 19. A woman attempting to guide her boat into a crowded dock made a bold decision. Instead of slowing down, she chose to shout instructions at the water, as though yelling, "Stay still," would persuade the lake to freeze out of intimidation. She approached the slip with the confidence of someone parallel parking a shopping cart, grabbed a rope far too late, and launched it like a lasso that wrapped uselessly around her own railing. The boat drifted past the dock entirely, scraping alongside a line of bumpers that squealed in protest, while onlookers braced for an impact she treated as an optional outcome. When she finally collided with a piling, she declared loudly that something's wrong with the current, earning looks from other boaters who were fully aware the only thing malfunctioning was her strategy. Her insurance evaluation later listed operator error, though the dockmaster privately suggested operator optimism would have been more accurate. 20. A man attempting to launch his jet boat ended up inventing a new field of study, unintentional amphibious engineering, when he forgot to unhook the winch strap before accelerating off the trailer. His dramatic takeoff attempt ended with the boat climbing the trailer like a hyperactive goat, launching upward and landing on the ramp in a triumphant, perfectly balanced pose as if auditioning for a nautical sculpture garden. Onlookers tried not to make eye contact while he circled the vessel in disbelief, searching for an explanation that didn't point directly to himself. Retrieving the stranded boat required 2 trucks, 3 generous strangers, and a level of patience that should qualify for humanitarian awards. The insurance filing described impact with terrestrial surface, which is a poetic way of saying the boat spent part of its day pretending it was a land vehicle and failing spectacularly. 21. The moment a family decided to launch fireworks from their pontoon boat, the lake instantly transitioned from peaceful recreation area to accidental battlefield. They set up a full rack of rockets on the bow, ignoring every warning label ever printed, and lit the first fuse with the joyful confidence of people who believe sparks will magically obey. The wind disagreed immediately, blowing the entire rack sideways so that the rockets blasted across the deck like angry meteors searching for new homes. People screamed, dove, rolled, and abandoned their snacks as the boat became a floating reenactment of an action movie no studio would approve. The resulting scorch patterns on the upholstery resembled abstract art created by a fire-loving toddler. Their statement to insurance insisted it was a celebratory mishap, a phrase that tried and failed to disguise the fact that they turned a family outing into an unintended pyrotechnic assault. 22. A man introduced the world to the concept of nautical feng shui when he rearranged the placement of heavy coolers, chairs, and gear to create positive flow, somehow forgetting that weight distribution is not a decorative preference. The boat leaned immediately to starboard, tilting so dramatically that passengers slid like pucks on an air hockey table. Undeterred, he insisted the boat was just adjusting and added even more items to the high side in a misguided attempt to balance the energy. The moment he hit open water, the vessel carved a permanent right turn, refusing to go straight no matter how dramatically he spun the wheel. Eventually, a wave slapped the deck, dislodging half his supplies and forcing a retreat to shore where neighboring captains observed the crooked boat with the kind of expression usually reserved for haunted objects. The insurance paperwork delicately recorded unusual load configuration, sidestepping the truth that the boat was decorated into instability. 23. A high-speed disaster unfolded when a guy decided his sunglasses were too expensive to lose and leaned over the gunnel at 40 miles per hour to retrieve them from a cup holder. His brilliant plan involved steering with his elbow while stretching across the deck like a committed yoga practitioner in denial. Predictably, the boat veered, hit a wake, and launched him into a spectacular airborne tumble that the passengers described as an interpretive dance of regret. The boat, now driverless, continued in a wide arc that threatened everything in its path until someone finally grabbed the wheel. Meanwhile, the sunglasses remained perfectly untouched in the cup holder, glowing like a symbol of the universe's preference for irony. His insurance claim listed fall from vessel, but the unofficial summary was simply gravity and ego teamed up. 24. A man attempted to impress friends by demonstrating how shallow the water was near shore, announcing he would just hop out and walk the boat in, which proved instantly ambitious. He stepped off confidently and vanished beneath the surface as if yanked by a disgruntled sea monster. The water, far from shallow, swallowed him entirely, leaving bubbles where his head had been. The boat drifted away, the friends laughed with the loyalty of hyenas, and he resurfaced sputtering with the expression of someone who had just renegotiated their opinion of lakes. Recovering the boat required a soggy chase that resembled slow-motion slapstick. His later explanation, "It looked shallow," became an unofficial catchphrase around the marina, while the insurance agent politely declined to document the part where he sank like a stone. 25. A woman's plan to rescue her runaway inflatable unicorn backfired magnificently when she dove into the water, forgetting she was fully clothed and her boat was still in gear. As she paddled toward the drifting pool toy, the boat idled steadily away from her with the smug determination of a petulant robot refusing commands. She tried shouting instructions, which is adorably ineffective on machines, and watched in disbelief as the vessel continued into open water like it had somewhere important to be. Nearby boaters intervened, retrieving the runaway boat and the unicorn, leaving her to climb aboard with the grace of a wet sock. Her insurance claim referenced unattended vessel movement, which barely captures the poetic tragedy of being abandoned by both boat and unicorn simultaneously. 26. A man attempting to load his boat onto a trailer created a parking lot legend when he misjudged the ramp angle and accelerated too aggressively, launching the boat over the trailer entirely. It slid across the grass like a fiberglass toboggan, carving a majestic path of destruction before coming to rest beneath a picnic table. Families scattered, sandwiches flew, and seagulls celebrated the buffet. The man approached the scene with the limp confidence of someone hoping the boat might magically fix itself if he stared long enough. Tow trucks arrived, cameras clicked, and the insurance adjuster later labeled the incident improper recovery procedure, delicately avoiding the phrase trajectory of shame. 27. A proud owner debuted his new depth finder by announcing he could now see underwater obstacles before they happen, a statement disproven almost immediately. He spent so much time staring at the screen, zooming, tapping, admiring the cute little fish icons, that he completely ignored the very real, very visible channel marker directly ahead. The collision produced a sound that can only be described as nautical disappointment, while the screen displayed a cheerful beep, as though applauding the discovery of object immediately in front of you. Passengers stared at him with the sort of quiet judgment that could sand paint off the hull. His insurance report included a screenshot from the depth finder, which captured nothing except the moment his attention drifted into technological fantasy. 28. A group's tubing adventure spiraled into chaos when the driver, determined to create the perfect action shot, executed a turn so sharp the tube detached entirely and shot forward like a rubberized missile. The riders skidded across the water's surface, screaming with the enthusiasm of unwilling stunt performers, before coming to rest in a patch of reeds where a heron looked genuinely concerned for the species' future. Meanwhile, the boat continued in circles, while the driver shouted reassurance that contradicted every observable fact. When the group finally reunited, soggy and furious, the insurance paperwork later described equipment separation, a sterile phrase that fails to convey the airborne elegance of an accidental human catapult. 29. A man attempting to maximize boat storage capacity filled every compartment, including the live well, with ice, drinks, snacks, and one extremely confused bait bucket. His organizational masterpiece lasted until the engine overheated because the intake was clogged with rogue chips and watermelon seeds, transforming his boat into the world's least effective smoothie blender. The engine emitted a sound reminiscent of a dying vacuum cleaner, forcing an emergency stop that left the group floating in a cloud of snack debris. He argued that all storage is storage, prompting the mechanic to recommend labeling compartments before using them again. The insurance summary politely recorded foreign object obstruction, omitting the culinary details. 30. A boater attempted to manually adjust his wake by shifting his weight dramatically from side to side, a technique inspired by absolutely no one with qualifications. He strutted around the deck like a motivational speaker, encouraging the waves to manifest differently, while the passengers clung to rails to avoid becoming unwilling projectiles. The boat rocked with increasing enthusiasm until a particularly assertive wave knocked him flat, sending his sunglasses flying into an alternate timeline. During his recovery, he insisted the wave hit wrong, as though the ocean had broken an agreement. The insurance paperwork later listed occupant movement contributing to instability, a clinical way of saying he tried to negotiate with water physics and lost. 31. A boat owner proudly unveiled his latest purchase, a high-tech anchor with smart deployment, a feature he understood approximately 0% of, but activated anyway. The anchor dropped instantly, catching on the lakebed while the boat maintained speed, resulting in a violent lurch that sent drinks, hats, and one unlucky passenger airborne. The anchor rope snapped with the dramatic flair of a Hollywood stunt, vanishing into the depths while the boat continued limping forward like it had survived a dramatic betrayal. The owner stared at the water in disbelief, mumbling something about software updates, as though firmware could explain physics. The insurance adjuster later described the damage as anchor-related stress, which is the most polite possible translation of "your anchor tried to yank the boat into another dimension." And that, somehow, was just a fraction of humanity's maritime genius. Drop your pick for the dumbest disaster below, and stick around, because the ocean's not done laughing at us yet.